Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our usual Monday night roundup here, reviewing and looking back at the weekend's action and all the talking points as well that have come along with the weekend's games. I'm Chris Bell, and as ever, delighted to say I'm joined by Lewis Sale, by Gareth Walker, and Stephen Downs, who appears to be doing a orchestra conduction. How are we, gents? Are we all okay?
Just cracking the bones, mate.
Superb, mate. Yourselves.
Yes, not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. A little bit later, we will be joined by Stephen Browney, and Jayson Boocker as well, who will join to talk all things Leeds United as well after their defeat to Burnley. But we'll kick off with another West Yorkshire side that sadly suffered defeat at the weekend. And that's your Bradford City, guys. And look, we said beforehand it was going to be a difficult place to go to. Walsall, who had a very good start to the League Two campaign. But just one of those afternoons, and obviously Graham Alexander's comments regarding the refereeing and the state of officiating have kind of taken the headlines almost away from the game itself. But let's start with that, the football on the pitch. Talk us through it and how the game kind of went and where City fell short.
Well, let's get this right. Like we all said on the pod last week, that a draw would have been a good result for City going to Walsall. I think they're we all said they're a real dark horse this year. I think they'll be in the playoffs, maybe even a little bit higher. They've had a settled team for a while. They've had the same manager for a while. They play a brand of football that is very, very physical, and you have to stand up to that. And that was a little bit of a problem on Saturday because as Graham Alexander and I felt watching the game, every time we tried to stand up to the physicality, we got punished by the referee. The best example I can give of that is the Richie Smallwood booking in the first half. He gets booked, and I have no problem with it being a booking. I think quite happy that it's a booking. I totally understand why he's booked him. But about 5 minutes before that, Kieran Gellig got absolutely flattened by a Walsall player in almost an identical tackle, a worse tackle, if anything, and he didn't even give a free kick. And that was symptomatic of the first half. And I think, like I said, they're a very physical side, and they were very physical when we went there last year, and we managed to stand up to it and overcome it. This time, every time we tried to stand up to it or give a little bit back, we got punished. Now, we'll come on to the referee properly later, like you say, Chris, because that is only one of the reasons why we lost that game on Saturday. It is not the whole story. There were numerous other reasons why we lost that game. But we nearly got a draw out of it, and I think a 1-1 was what I predicted, and a 1-1 would have been a good result. And we conceded with 2 minutes to go, and that is deeply, deeply disappointing because it felt like we'd done all the hard work. It felt like we'd overcome, like I said, the issues with the referee and the style of play, and it felt like we switched off a little bit at the end, and we've thrown a point away, and a promotion-chasing team goes and overcomes all those hurdles that I was talking about regarding the style of play of the referee. And I think promoted teams go and see that out and get a point, and they don't lose concentration at the end. Now, like I said, we'll come on to the referee in a bit. It wasn't the only reason we lost the game. We lost the game for numerous reasons, one being that we started so slowly. Walsall came out of the blocks flying. They did when we went there last year as well, so we should have known that was going to happen. We could have been more than 1 down at half-time. It could have been easily 2 or 3 down at half-time. So the slow start was a part. The goal that they scored, the first goal that Walsall scored, is a penalty. What we did just before and just after that penalty played a part as well, because Neil Byrne goes down injured a few minutes before the penalty. He's clearly done his hamstring, and we send him back onto the pitch while we get the sub ready to come on. And then Walsall break. Byrne can't keep up with the attacker. He looks like he's running in treacle, trying to catch up with him. They're in behind. The ball comes across. Richie Smallwood slides in, and the player goes down. Now, some people say that he took the ball. Some people say that he didn't. I couldn't really see. But you can see why a penalty is given, and they stick the ball away, and it's 1-0 to Walsall, and they thoroughly deserve to be 1-0 up. And then Byrne comes off, and the sub comes on. Now, we see this happen with other teams quite a lot, where if something like that happens, the player stays down, he stays on the pitch, he wastes time, and you don't let the game start until the sub comes on. And I think sometimes City are a little bit naive, and it's not even dark arts, it's just being sensible, to be honest. And Graham Alexander said afterwards that Neil Byrne said he felt like it was a bit of cramp. But Andy Kiwomya sort of countered that and said, it's early in the game. You're 20 minutes in, half an hour in. It's not going to be cramp. It's going to be a hamstring. So that was a problem. Obviously, when Byrne's gone off, we had to rearrange the back three again, like we did when we lost our last game at Grimsby. Not to the same extent that we reorganised. Chick Diabate, I think, if I remember rightly, Kieran Kelly went into the middle. Jack Shepherd came on as the sub, went left-hand side, and Chick Diabate stayed on the right-hand side. But it is a rejig. And we were lucky, like I say, to only be 1-0 down at half-time. Second half, I thought we were a lot better. I don't know. I think I sent it to the group chat. How Clark Oduor misses an open goal from 2 yards out is absolutely baffling. It's the biggest chance that we have all game. He's just got to stick it away. You're waiting for the net to bulge. It's literally, it's 2 yards out. He's got an open goal and somehow he slices it wide. And then that is the chance to go 2-1 up because we had equalised late on in the first half against the run of play. Brilliant bit of pressing from Jamie Walker again, similar to the goal we scored against Carlisle. This time it comes across to Ollie Sanderson, who puts it away, and we're 1-1 at half-time. But that chance from Oduor in the second half is massive. And not scoring that, and then we had a series of corners not long after it where we absolutely peppered their goal, and their keeper went down injured twice, clearly wasting time, clearly trying to take the momentum away from City. And it sort of petered out, and then Walsall gained control again and scored with 2 minutes to go. The goal that we conceded at the end with 2 minutes to go, it's good striker play from Danny Johnson, but he peels off the centre-half. The centre-half's got to go with him, and it ends up being a free header on the penalty spot. And you give Danny Johnson a free header on the penalty spot in League Two, and 9 times out of 10 he scores. And he did, and then it's game over. So, yeah, the defending for the winner, the slow start, the Neil Byrne injury, the Clark Oduor miss, these are all reasons why we lost the game, as well as Graham Alexander's general irks with refereeing. And it is key to point out before we get on to the refereeing that he's not just talking about Saturday's game. If you listen to him, he's talking about refereeing in general too, and the way that he doesn't think, and I think a lot of City fans think, we don't get a fair crack of the whip for referees in League Two. And I think it's a point that, although it sounds like sour grapes, that's why I'm trying to point out that there are other reasons why we lost that game. Although it sounds like sour grapes, it's a point that needs making, because referees treat us differently, I feel, to how they treat other teams in League Two. And we'll come on to that shortly, I'm sure.
We will indeed. Downser?
Yeah, you say about the lad that came off and Neil Byrne and the lad that came on, and the way that the back four or back three had to reshuffle. Is that not something that they work on in training? Because I know Duff's very like at town. He's like, if something happens, they come up with a contingency plan and actually work on that. And that's happened a few times, even early on this season. Is it something that do you think that they need to work on? Because if it's happened twice now, and it's ended up being not the cause of the loss, but it's not helped the reason for the loss. Maybe that's something that they need to look at, particularly if it's twice it's happened in regards to a defensive shuffle.
I think it's a fair point, Downsy. We play 3 centre-halves. We have 5 senior centre-halves on the books, plus Callum Johnson, who can always also play there, but we kind of forget about him because he hasn't kicked a ball for us yet. But of the 5 centre-halves that we have, Aidan Baldwin started the season right-hand side. He's already injured. He went off in the game at Grimsby. You would ideally hope that those centre-halves aren't just limited to be able to play left side, centre or right, and can be a bit flexible and move around when they need to. But they're always going to have a favoured position. Kieran Kelly's favoured position is on the left. We've struggled before when we've had to move him into the middle, which is what we did on Saturday, because Jack Shepherd came in to play left-hand side, and he's a left-hand-sided centre-half. That's where he plays, so he's got to go and play left-hand-sided centre-half. So Kieran Kelly then has to move into the middle. So, yeah, we should be more flexible. Players should probably practice at playing in each of those 3 positions rather than the one that they prefer. What was interesting is Kieran Kelly also had to go off at half-time. So we lost another centre-half at half-time. So we've lost Neil Byrne injured in the first half. Kieran Kelly's gone off injured at half-time. We'd then already brought our centre-half on off the bench, so we've only got 2 centre-halves playing. We had to go to 4-4-2, which is a formation that Graham Alexander says we haven't practiced at all. It's not one that he sees us playing, and we've had to go to it in the second half because we only have 2 fit centre-halves in the 18-man squad because Kelly and Byrne have both gone off injured. And to be honest with you, when we went to 4-4-2, to say that we don't normally play it, we improved in the second half. And maybe that's a case of Walsall don't expect us to be playing it either because they'll have watched us and they know that we play with 3 centre-halves. But we did improve, and Chick Diabate and Jack Shepherd, who were both low knees, by the way, both did reasonably well in the second half and stood up to it, apart from Chick letting Danny Johnson peel off him for that winner with 2 minutes to go. And that's the only mistake they really made, but it's cost us the game. And it is worrying that, we've lost now all 3 centre-halves that started the season. We started the season with Baldwin right, Burns centre and Kelly left, and all 3 of those now injured. We lost Baldwin at Grimsby and we lost the other 2 on Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see what we do going forward, whether Kelly can be fit. If Byrne has an hamstring, he's going to be out for a while, which is what Baldwin's got, and he's going to be out for a while. So will we go to the 4 that we played in the second half on Saturday? I don't know. Or will we play a couple of players out of position or a young lad? We've got a young lad called Charlie Goodman who plays for Northern Ireland under-19s. He's meant to be very highly rated. Whether he gets a shot against Mansfield in the Bristol Street Motors tomorrow night, we shall see. But it's either going to 4 at the back or it is playing players in positions that they aren't used to go with, continue going with your 3 going forward. It's just a real blow that all our injuries seem to have come in the back line when we've got 5 centre-halves and now 3 of them are injured.
Yeah, I heard you talking to Jamie Rayner on BBC Radio Leeds, little over, probably less than an hour or so ago, and you and Jim were kind of having that discussion about who have you actually got fit that can play across, in that defensive unit at the moment. There's certainly going to be some rejigging needed somewhere.
Yeah, obviously Jack Shepherd and Chick Diabate are the 2 senior centre-halves we've got, so we either play 4 and they're playing as the 2 centre-halves, or we try and stick with the 3, and maybe Lewis Richards comes into the squad to play left centre-half. I know we've always played him as a left wing-back, but he has played left centre-half before when he was at Wolves.
In a back 4, who are the full-backs, given that the players that were recruited to be specifically wing-backs, whether that was Tyreek Wright on the left-hand side, in a more defensive role than he's used to? Who would be the flat full-backs?
Well, Brad Halliday would play at right-back. He's played at a flat-back 4 before. Probably more of a normal right-back than a wing-back when he first came to City. Has turned into a wing-back while he's been at City. So he'd probably stay where he is at right-back. The left side would be a problem because your 2 left-hand-sided left-backs or left wing-backs are Lewis Richards and Tyreek Wright. Now, like you say, Chris, you wouldn't expect or you wouldn't really want to see Tyreek Wright in a flat-back 4 at left-back. So does Lewis Richards. If you play, I would expect Lewis Richards to play one way or another. He either comes into a flat-back 4 at left-back or he comes into a 3 centre-back formation on the left-hand side of the back 3. He will probably play one way or another because, like I say, he has played left centre-half before, and he obviously normally plays left wing-back for us. So I would imagine he comes in. It's just whether we stick with it, with the 3-5-2 and he plays left centre-half, or we go 4-4-2 and he plays left-back in place of Tyreek Wright.
Could you not?
I'm just going to throw this at you as well. Sorry, Steve. I'm just going to throw this as well. Clark Adore has played left back in his career at previous clubs.
More of a left wing back though. Again, Chris, I think really. Again, I wouldn't really want to see him as a flat back 4, but he can and has played left wing back. You're right, similar to Tyreek Wright. Jack of all trades. To be honest, mate, I'd be having him practicing on his finishing after Saturday because that was just horrendous. That's what he should be doing in training. I know some of you have seen it and some of you might not have, but how he's missed it, God only knows. I honestly don't know. It's easy to, I don't know. It's just horrendous. How you missed from there, I don't know.
It's like the Derby one. The Derby one at the weekend was horrendous as well.
Very similar.
Could you not have as an idea? Richie Small would play as not as a centre back, but so closely in front of the 2 centre backs, where like Jonathan Hogg did that under Wagner for us, where he would go into the back 5, as it were. I mean, he's already a really defensive player, isn't he? So, and he's good on the ball. I mean, would that not be an option where he doesn't necessarily have to change to a 4? Then he can keep his 5, and you could keep the wing backs as wing backs.
He could do, Downsy. I don't know. Like, Smallwood is our only defensive midfielder. He's the only one we've got who can play in that position. It's probably the only place we don't have cover in the squad is for Richie Smallwood. Now, that you're talking about a defensive midfielder dropping into the back four or into the back three is something that we have seen before at City. Stuart McCall's team, 16-17, Romain Vinchelot used to do it all the time. We had Rory McArdle and Nat Knight Percival as centre halves, and the number of times that Romain Vinchelot dropped in and made it a 3 instead of just staying in midfield as a defensive midfielder. We had that flexibility in games, and we used it quite a lot. Maybe it's something, I don't know if that's something Alexander would look at. Possibly it is.
Going forward, then, obviously, actually just touching on the post-match briefly, I know a hell of a lot have been said regarding Graham Alexander. As you say, his comments aren't just about Saturday, it's the accumulation over the course of the season and his frustration that Bradford City just don't get the big decisions.
Yeah, and it's something that we've thought for a while. I think referees often, to be honest, the referee on Saturday is an experienced referee. He's refereed in the Championship.
Who was
regularly.
It?
I can't remember his name. Do you know what? I knew you were going to ask me that, and I can't remember his name. I looked it up to see where he'd refereed before, and he has refereed in the Championship.
I bet I'll know his name. His name.
Oh, that's it. Why on the referee Lewis Smith?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Now, we're not, but like you rightly say, Chris, we're not talking about one referee. What we're talking about, and it's something that City fans have noticed for a long time. Often you get referees in League Two that are coming up from the conference, and they come to Valley Parade, and they have a preconceived idea that the crowd play too big an influence, and they do not want to be influenced by the crowd at Valley Parade, and they almost go the other way. And it's almost as though we're going to do everything we can to show that we're not going to be influenced by the crowd. And you hear them, and Graham Alexander touched on it on Saturday. You hear a referee say, "I've done my homework." Now that's a load of crap. This happens at other clubs, other grounds. Like I say, and I mentioned it on the radio, Walsall and Grimsby are tough places to go. The crowd are just as vociferous as we are at Valley Parade. But because they don't have this reputation as a big club with a big crowd who are going to create a great... Do you know what I mean? They come with a preconceived idea that they cannot let the crowd influence them at Valley Parade, and it goes the other way. And we don't get that fair crack of the whip when we go to places like Grimsby and Walsall. The best example I can give of that is the Andy Cook non-penalty against Carlisle a fortnight ago. It's the most recent one I can give because it's the last home game. It's an absolute stonewaller of a penalty. The referee's staring right at it. He's about to take a shot on goal. The guy grabs his shirt, pulls him back, and he swings his leg and he can't kick the ball because he's been pulled back. Now, the referee's right there. He's got a free shot on goal. Why is he going to go down? He's on a hat-trick. He doesn't take penalties, like he rightly said to Jamie Rayner afterwards. Why am I going to go down? And he's not giving it. It just irks. It feels like I said, they come to Valley Parade and they have a preconceived idea that they can't be influenced by the crowd, and it's not the same when they go to places like Walsall and Grimsby. And Jamal Matt got mentioned in the post-match by Graham Alexander. Jamal Matt, he said, "I've nothing against Jamal Matt. He's a physical striker. He does what Walsall want him to do." But Andy Cook and Verdane Oliver are making the same challenges and making the same jumps and the same decision and going for the same balls that Jamal Matt's going for. Andy Cook and Verdane Oliver are getting pulled up and penalised, and Jamal Matt hasn't had one free kick given against him all afternoon. And it's playing the same role for them as Cook and Oliver are playing for us. And actually, the second goal, the Walsall winner, comes from a free kick given against Verdane Oliver. All right, it's in their half, and we've got to defend it better because it goes so far forward to Albert Adoma that we've got to defend it better. But it's never a free kick in a million years. It's a free kick the other way if you see it back. And he's given the easy decision, and he's gone with a home decision. And it's just really, really frustrating. And it does feel like, I say, that because we've got this reputation as a big club, big fan base, noisy crowd, they come with a preconceived idea that they don't have when they go to other teams.
Done their homework, though. What a weird thing that is, just for a referee to say. Like, why don't you just referee the game that's going on rather than coming to the game saying, "I've done my homework"? Like,
all referees do, though.
Yeah, I know, but it's such a weird thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's just what they do. To be fair, it's one of those things that they go and look at the sides and the likelihood of and the way the game could be played out, etc.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Bradford's the dirty side.
I'm just thinking, Gaz, that this sounds. I mean, I'm just thinking back to after that Leeds Sportsman's game on the opening day, and Jay was making very similar points about referees at Elland Road. It's. I'm going to say to you what I said to him. It doesn't just seem like it's a Bradford thing. I hate to say it, mate. This seems to be one of those things that many a big club with a big crowd will feel the same way.
Yeah, well, I mentioned this on the radio to Jamie Rayner as well. We're not the only club, and I actually referenced what Browney and Jay have said on here, that it happens to clubs at all levels when they're seen as the big fish. I think referees go there with this idea that we're not going to let the crowd influence us. But obviously, we are the biggest fish in League Two, and we're probably the only. We might not be the only one it happens to in League Two, but probably one of the only ones that it happens to in League Two. And it's just really, really, really frustrating. And it happens year after year after year, and you see them come in, and you can tell what they're doing from an early stage in the game. Like I said, talking about the referees is obviously the main point that came out post-match, but I am keen to stress that is, and I said it at the start, that's not the only reason we lost the game. I mentioned the other reasons why I thought we lost the game, and if we'd have done those things right, we probably wouldn't have lost the game. But this is an issue that City fans have seen before, and I'm kind of glad, although it sounds like sour grapes, I'm kind of glad Alexander said something about it.
I agree, guys. I think the point he made about apparently the referees not turning up for the league meeting, that's it's got to be made accountable. I think it's great if that is true, that he's come out and said. I can't imagine why he'd make something like that up. Then the PGML have got to come out and answer that, because we're still talking about. I know League Two is the lowest professional kind of standard of football in our pyramid, but that he's not on. It's not on, and the PGML have got to come out and answer kind of that, statement from Alexander and kind of say otherwise, or the reason why the head of referees couldn't turn up to a referees meeting for whatever reason. I think, listen, I've got my own thoughts on officiating in the pyramid. I think it's got weaker, and I think that's because the standard of football across the pyramid has gone up. I sometimes believe that the referees, in my opinion, at times haven't caught up with the level of football. Obviously getting heavily scrutinised at the higher levels, but we've also got to appreciate that there's those guys beneath the Premier League who it counts for just as much, and there's still the money involved, there's still the emotion involved, and some of those decisions are not acceptable, and some of them are, to your point, guys, in some of your examples, some of them are basic mistakes that they're making, and you can take mistakes here and there and everywhere, and so to speak, but when it continually happens week in, week out against your team, or even, kind of for your team, I've been at games when, referee decisions are going in our favour and we're all looking at each other. And I'm like, hang on a minute. There was one instance on Tuesday, and I'm probably putting my neck on the line here because I might be wrong, but I thought when a player went in for the challenge with another player and went down and the opposing player got booked, I thought that player who went down could stay on the pitch despite receiving physio treatment. Am I correct?
No.
Do they have to come off?
Yeah. Unless it's a goalkeeper, you have to come off. From how I understand the ruling, so like if both players are injured, both players have to go off if the physios have come on. It's if the physios have come on.
I'm not 100% sure either way, to be honest.
Yeah.
I know if it's a head injury, they have to go off.
It's changed.
Is it for 30 seconds? They have to go off for 30 seconds.
Yeah, it used to be 10, didn't it? But then they've upped it to 30, which is madness because
they play around with this so much. I honestly don't know, Lou.
Again, it's inconsistencies, isn't it? I mean, this is kind of my point of, I thought the opposition player was allowed to stay on. He was telling the linesman and referee saying, I should be allowed to stay on because I've had physio treatment, but the lad's got booked. And the referee waved him off. 5 minutes later, the guy gets substituted. He's right down near the touchline. Again, I thought they should be moved to the closest touchline is where they are to be substituted. He walks or very gently jogs, shall I politely say, manage the game, and as you would do, to the other side without the referee kind of ushering, without booking. Again, it's that inconsistency that really frustrates football fans, and we see it week in, week out, again, whether it's our team or other teams. But yeah, I agree, guys. I think it was really good that Alexander came out and spoke about it. It wouldn't surprise me if other managers followed suit as that, because I think and I don't think it's a vendetta, but we want the referees and officiating to be better in this game that we all love and appreciate, because at the end of the day, it's hurting teams, and unfortunately, there shouldn't be the talking points. Like you said, there's other factors in the game that prevents you possibly winning that game if your own fault. But you can't, again, we'll talk about Leeds later on, you can't predict what that decision, there's not been a penalty over the weekend. That's a penalty. It's a penalty.
It's like
you can't hide around that fact that that has a direct effect on the game at that moment in time. Same with Bradford City.
Yeah,
you're absolutely spot on. Like we all want refereeing to be better. The refereeing in the Premier League, we've seen it with VAR. It ain't as good as it should be. But then you come the lower down you come, and I don't know how you caught of it in non-league, Luke, because it's got to be even worse than it is at League Two level. But yeah, it's just not good enough. And let me hold my hand. I just want to say here, I would not want to be a referee. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
I don't know why they do it. I honestly don't know why they do it, because I couldn't do it. It's a pressure situation, and you might even be doing things subconsciously half the time. You've got to make decisions on the spot when you're not sure about things. I couldn't do it, but it needs to be better. And like you say, what Graham Alexander said about the meeting and the head of referees not going to it, that's totally and utterly unacceptable. It shows a lack of disrespect. It shows total disrespect to the lower leagues, and they've got to be just as concerned or take into account the managers where we are, their opinions, just as much as they do about managers higher up. And I'm glad he said it. He'll probably get fined for saying it. But
there was a stat. There was a stat the other day that clubs now have statistically received more letters from PGMOL about refereeing decisions as of this season than in some of the seasons in the past 5 years.
We had goodness knows how many letters of apology last year. I can't remember how many.
I don't understand what that solves though, because the game's gone. The club's lost the money out of the placing that it's going to lose for whatever. If it's at the end of the season, I don't really understand what it solves. And when you've only got two referees that are referees saying that can only referee a top London derby, say, in Taylor and Oliver, and they give it to a young lad that's never done it before, and all right, refereed all right, but the point is that there isn't the pool of talented refs, as Lou's pointed out, and he's correct in what he says, refereeing in the professional game. And like Gaz says, I don't know if it's got any worse at non-league level. I presume it has, because it all filters down. But there's just not that standard there anymore.
And where are you at now when your only thing you can do, they can write a letter of complaint? But we had, I just jumped in there, sorry, Downs, but the number of apologies we apparently had last year was ridiculous. And Alexander's basically said after Saturday, what's the point? It don't make any difference. You get a letter of apology, but what does it matter? What you get?
And obviously, Chris, you're going to wrap up with predictions. And kind of my final point in this is that we're not against referees, we're not against officiating. What we're against is the same mistakes and the same, and it's becoming a habit where we're talking about big decisions that are costing teams, yes, financially, but at the end of the day on a Saturday at 5 o'clock, you want to win a game. Take the money aspect out of it straight away. We want to win a game or get the result that you want to get out of that. And unfortunately, some of these officiating decisions are affecting games in a big, big way. And I think this is my point, is that everybody, I think, it does sound kind of a wet thing to say, but they all need to work better together to make it into a better way that people are going to respect. Because, you see stuff that's being said about refereeing decisions in defending that and this, that, and the other, and not going to go to VAR for this because of hang on a minute. We just want the right decision. This isn't about taking sides about whether, you're friends with your referees or,
correct,
you can't officiate a certain team because you live in a certain area. At the end of the day, it's a job. Like, we all have jobs and we all work hard, and you've got to be impartial. So all we want is the referees and clubs to work better together to get a better outcome. And listen, 20 years ago, we were in a situation, 30 years ago, whatever it would have been, is where some of these referees were not full-time. They all had jobs. They were all blooming policemen, teachers, or whatever. Some of these now are full-time. It's their job. And I think this is my point, is that the standard of football, I think, is increased. The standard of officiating probably has increased, if I'm being honest, but probably not as much as what it should do compared to the level of actual football that's happening. And yeah, I mean, I see instances and hear things at grassroots level, what Ryan's put there. And listen, we can't do without them, but also what we need is them to be better and work better with clubs. and take some accountability, and starting that would be a point of that Graham Alexander mentioned. There might be a really good reason as to why that head of referees wasn't able to make it. May have been, another talk elsewhere in the world, or dealing with a Premier League game, or whatever that may be. We don't know, but come out and talk to people, communicate with people, be open and transparent about it, because yes, there is a respect for referees. There absolutely is, but respect dwindles when some of these decisions keep on happening.
Spot on.
Yeah, it was a Premier League record over the weekend for the most bookings in a single Premier weekend this weekend. 65 was the record, 14 of which came in the Bournemouth-Chelsea game, which was a bizarre watch, to say the least.
Which is obviously the case. Sorry, Chris, but obviously, why is that the case? Why is there more bookings? It might be because it might have been a game full of fouls that deserved it. But again, we're talking about something without some context or substance behind it. So again, it comes back to the whole communicate, be open, be transparent, because everywhere else is now.
I think the standard of the game has got slightly worse, if anything. I think bookings are a lot easier to come by and a lot softer now than they were even 10 years ago, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right, let's, before we kind of wrap up, let's look ahead. Gaz, obviously Mansfield Town in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, is it? I think you're right in saying tomorrow night.
Mate. Yeah.
And then Wimbledon at home on Saturday. I mean, just going to bring it back to Matt, his comment. He got this in good and early. He was in about 7:05 with his comment about Clark O'Doyle needs to be using Impact sub, not as a starter, and he's hoping that Patterson will start against Wimbledon on Saturday. What's your take in particular on the game on Saturday against Wimbledon?
Yeah, I think he's spot on. Graham Alexander likes Clark O'Doyle. He obviously does. He likes him a lot more than the fans like him. But I would be playing. He's not a terrible player. He's a decent squad option. But I wouldn't have him starting. I've said all along, those 2-8s that we play with, Jamie Walker has to be one of them, and then it's between Patterson and Poynton for the other one. When I was talking about the defence before, I know Ian's put a comment in about J. Ben. Yes, J. Ben will probably play against Mansfield tomorrow night, you would imagine. And then Halliday will be back to save Halliday for Saturday. I would imagine there'll be. I was saying to Jamie Rayner on the radio before, I would like to see players protected tomorrow night, especially when we're down to the bare bones at the back. Yes, the result's important. You don't want to get hammered, and Mansfield are a good side, but the priority has to be Wimbledon on Saturday and protecting players for that. I said that, like I said, a draw at Walsall would have been a good result. We were very close to getting it. Wimbledon have gone top of the league. You couldn't even say a draw at home to Wimbledon's not a terrible result either, especially with the problems that we've got injury-wise. So I'd take a draw on Saturday, and then, like I said, go into the I think I said last week, go into the next three after that, Harrogate, Newport, Morecambe, and try and win those.
Yeah, Wimbledon with the greatest victory for football on the whole at the weekend with that 3-0 win over the MK Dons. And my, they milked it in some fantastic ways on their social media channels, it has to be said. Come on then, quick predictions then tomorrow night, Gaz. Start with
3-1 Mansfield tomorrow, and then Saturday 1-1 against Wimbledon.
Stephen Downs for Bradford versus Mansfield tomorrow. Or Mansfield Bradford. Is it Field Mill, Gaz?
Say again, mate.
Is it Field Mill?
It is. It's at Field Mill, yeah.
Unfortunately, guys, I'm gonna go 2-1 to Mansfield tomorrow, mate. And if Wimbledon are top of the league, I haven't seen a lot of them this season, but I'm gonna go a 3-1 loss at the weekend. I did predict you to get the win this week, mate, but I can't. Sorry, I hate doing it, but
we should have done. Blame Clark O'Doyle.
Well, I blame the referee as well, but yeah.
I'm going to go for a 3-0 Mansfield win, I'm afraid, Gaz, tomorrow night in the trophy. And as ever, I'll be ever the goal fest optimist, and I'm going to go for a 3-3 draw.
That'd be a good
I swear it's like having Roy Keane.
One of these weekends, it will happen. It will. Lewis, what are you going for, mate?
Mansfield, I'm going to go 1-0 Mansfield tomorrow. I actually think City will do okay against Wimbledon, just based on the fact Wimbledon have got one of the biggest games in recent history against Newcastle in the League Cup the following week on the Tuesday, which I think they want to
small fry.
Yeah, whatever. So I'm going to go. I'm actually going to go 1-0 City on Saturday.
Cheers, Luke.
No worries, bro. Bro, stick together, Downsy.
No, I hate the fact I've predicted City to lose for Gaz. I want a happy Gaz, but
yeah.
the injuries are not great for City, are they? So, you know.
Yeah, Wimbledon have started well as well. It will be tough, but hence me sitting on the fence with excitement at stake, hopefully. Right, let's turn our attentions, moving on from Bradford City to the non-league scene. And Lewis, I mean, I'm just going to let you off you
Take
go.
it away, Lou.
Yeah, take it
Go,
away
Lou.
with your big
Go on,
non-league
Lou.
roundup.
Wind him up and let him go.
Actually, we'll come back just before we do. The breaking news of the evening, really, in terms of the non-league scene for Guiseley.
Yes.
And obviously links to you as well, Gaz. Liam Rydell, who was obviously released by Bradford in the summer. We kind of wondered what he was going to do, where he was going to end up. It's taken a little bit of time, but he's joined Guiseley, Lewis, and obviously for them selling Reece Kendall as well. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think to Matlock makes sense to be able to get him in nice and swiftly.
Came out of Towns Academy too.
He did.
He did. Yeah. I think it's a really good signing for Guiseley. Really good signing. Obviously, was released at City, like you mentioned earlier. Actually played quite a lot, to be fair, for City, didn't he, last season, Gaz, to be honest.
He did, mate. More than he should have done, really, again, with injuries, I think. But yeah, he did.
Yeah, centre-back and left-back. So for Guiseley, it's a really experienced, again, leader. And just bolsters the squad and what is already probably one of the strongest squads in that Northern Premier Division. So I think, again, they've probably worked on that with potentially knowing Kendall might leave. Obviously, Kendall played, I think, pretty much a player of the season last year for Guiseley. He struggled to get into the first team. Situations changed at Matlock and he's gone back to Matlock and it just seems like a really good fit. It seems like somebody who, by all accounts, after reading an interview just before we came on, he's interested in taking up some kind of physiotherapy and kind of getting to that coaching side potentially. At 33 years old, so he almost learns his trade at Guiseley under really good non-league people there. And listen, he could probably help out some of the younger lads there. I mean, if you're a Lucas, a Dunstan, or a Jamil Eubel, for example, in that squad, Ollie Brown, to learn off somebody like Liam Rydell, you just soak up like a sponge, don't you? So I think it's a great signing. And again, makes them probably even stronger than what they were, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Whilst we're talking Guiseley for them, Lou, at the weekend, a 3-0 win over 1874 Northwich in the FA Cup that sees them progressing to the third qualifying round where they will face either Newcastle Town, which I'm 99% sure is Newcastle under Lyme, Stoke-on-Trent kind of way, or Scunthorpe United in the next round, depending on the winner, obviously, of that tie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking at the fixture, you'd expect Scunthorpe to win, but I mean, it's a great result for Newcastle Town to just pick up a draw against Scunny, who are flying at the moment in the National League North. If it probably was to go the way that many people expect, I actually think it would be a really good match. It's a really good test for Guiseley, and it's a really good test for Scunthorpe, because obviously, they've had some troubled times recently, and they're kind of working themselves back up to what they used to be. Obviously, a million miles away from the Championship, but at the same point, recruited well, new owners, just seem to have steadied the ship a little bit. So if Guiseley do have to host Scunthorpe, you can expect a bit of a packed house at Nevermore. Both teams would have been wanting a good cup run, so probably didn't really want to fancy potentially playing each other either. But I think it's a really good test. And listen, it's not to discount Newcastle Town because, they've done well, obviously, to get where they are. But let's be also realistic. There's probably expectations Scunthorpe, will probably beat them in a replay. So for Guiseley, it's not the greatest tie on paper, but if they do actually beat Scunthorpe in that, which they're capable of doing, again, that Guiseley Cup magic just comes to life a little bit again after the years that we've had it against the likes of Accrington and Cambridge.
There's a possible shout there as well, actually, for, as we saw for Campion earlier on in the tournament, getting the TV game for the BBC on the red button and iPlayer. A shout, looking at the draw, that potentially that could be their pick of the games, Guiseley versus Scunthorpe United, if it were to be Scunny.
Yeah, I think it's a really good shout. I think if you're somebody at the BBC sport department, you're definitely looking out for that one. Obviously there are a couple of fixtures that might just make you sit up and think about it. But Guiseley have got recent history in getting into the first round and doing well. Scunthorpe, quite an infamous name around this area and across football in the UK as well. So yeah, I mean it's definitely one where they could definitely do it. They probably wouldn't have to check out and put out a bit of a scaffold between the two dugouts like we did at Campion, but at the same time they've got the facilities to set up. And listen, if you put that on TV, I think a lot of people, especially around this region, were tuning to watch that.
Absolutely.
They took 2,000 to Farsley, Lou, last season. I went, and they'll probably take they follow well everywhere they go at Scunny. So I can't believe it. Back in 2016, I went to watch Scunthorpe v Rotherham in the League One playoff semi-final, and like the demise of that club is just quite astonishing, really. So yeah, be a good test for Guiseley.
Absolutely. Let's go back to the top then. In that case, Lou, with the non-league scene. So let's kick off with Halifax Town, and I'll let you rattle through all the latest news from the non-league scene.
Yeah, no problem, guys. So obviously kicking off with Halifax Town, or FC Halifax Town now as officially known. So obviously drew midweek against Oldham in a bit of derby, 1-1 under the lights at the Shave, and followed up with a magnificent win against, at the time, second place Eastleigh, 3-1. We were getting updates, weren't we, from Shaman Stats. Could not believe that there were 3 goals up. He was sending voice notes. We've never heard him so happy. He was chuffed to bits, wasn't he, that they'd scored. And yeah, I mean, from Dave's roundup, you know, he actually said, you know, they were very good at the weekend. The difference from other games is that we finished off the chances we created, which, listen, we know what Halifax can do. They do play really good flowing football. They do open teams up. They play, in inverted commas, the right way. It's just sometimes they probably don't score as many goals as what they deserve. And for 3-0 up at half-time, I mean, yeah, we can't play the voice notes because maybe some transfers in there from Davis per normal, but you can imagine his delight at what that situation was. And then I think, yeah, half-time 3-0 up, a few subs came in, just managed the game, better side throughout. I know Millington as well came out in the interview post-match and said he was really happy with how it's gone. So, listen, it's one of those where Halifax, we say it, we sound like a broken record, but just do Halifax things. Just outside of playoffs, after what initially looked like a bit of a shaky start. But now we're just on the edge of that. And they've got a winnable game potentially on Saturday away at Maidenhead, who are joint bottom on 5 points, with the likes of Ebbsfleet and Fylde, who ironically have parted company with their manager respectively. So it's a game that Halifax will potentially go in with a lot more confidence. You know, the draw against Oldham, the win against Eastleigh, the league is starting to open up a little bit again. I suspect that Millington will get his players ready for this weekend and not take the foot off the gas, because once you get 3 goals in and fans go, you know, we might have scored more than 1 goal, we're capable of doing it. He'll want to repeat the same again.
They'll probably lose, Lou, won't they? Like I said, Maidenhead. No, he's just doing the facts thing, innit? You know what I mean? Yeah. Beat Eastleigh, which nobody thought would. I'm saying nobody, but a lot of us thought. Not that comfortably. Yeah. But then to go to Maidenhead or play Maidenhead, who were like 5th from bottom or whatever, like Lou said, they'd probably, you know, put in a crap performance or whatever.
They've got some good players of Maidenhead. I know that as I say, the season hasn't started particularly well with them. I saw them the other weekend at Rochdale, and to be fair, in Hallam, Devonshire, they've got by far the most experienced manager as well in the league. It's fair to say. Lou, on to the National League North then and Farsley.
Yep, so Farsley, a good solid win at Hallam. Obviously, they've got some issues themselves, which I'll just come into in a little bit, but they beat Hallam, one of the, you know, kind of dark horses of the North Counties East League, 3-1, up and down that slope. People may be familiar if you've not, check out the pitch, because it is, you think of Barnet, Old Underhill. Hallam's on a different level. So their victories earned them a away tie at Wythenshawe Town. Tough game, but again, one that Farsley will probably reasonably happy with, and are capable of winning. It's away from home, in inverted commas. So again, they'll be probably expecting to win that game, but again, don't write off Wythenshawe Town, because they're not a bad outfit either. Kind of on and off the pitch, just to sum things up. So they are at home. I emphasise at home to Leamington on Saturday. But originally it was due to be at Bradford Park Avenue, but instead it's been moved to Alfreton Town's Impact Arena Stadium because of the ongoing issues on the pitch, which obviously came to light during the middle of last week, when Paul Bamford, the chairman, came out with quite a lengthy statement, opinionated, had a lot of things to say. So yeah, I would, without reading it obviously word for word, I would urge people to go and read it because it does give you a little bit of context into kind of what's happening down there at the Citadel. But his words are, the league have been fully aware of all events, have been very cooperative today. It's while disappointing in terms of club finance, with potentially having to go obviously to Alfreton and play, fans wanting to watch us play at home and asking fans to travel is unfortunately short-term pain we're going to have to deal with. Once the pitch is down, it's going to benefit fans for the next decade. I think ultimately what fans want to see is just to see it happen now, and just have a bit more of actually feet on the ground. Let's see some progress on the pitch, because at the moment we're not far from being a quarter into the season, and there's still no real kind of update or progress on that. So I know it's been complex and been complicated by all accounts, but I think once the grass starts to grow, that'll be good for the Farsley fans. And then changes off the field, new CEO, new media marketing manager. So there's a lot happening at Farsley, a lot of things happening. But they've got the game against Leamington to look forward to. And then kind of going through and dropping down, obviously, a couple of divisions to the North Premier League East, which, along with the North East Counties League, is where our teams mainly dominate. So again, as I normally do in kind of alphabetical order, starting with Avenue. So we touched on the last game last Tuesday, 1-0 defeat to Ashington up in the North East, but that wasn't followed by any games on Saturday due to being out of the FA Cup. The next fixture's away to Ossett in the FA Trophy on Saturday, but also a blow for Avenue is today, losing the captain Conor De Mayo, who people may be familiar with from the likes of Stockport. He's actually gone back to Matlock, who he left at the end of last season. So he's gone back to Matlock. I mean, moving through some of the teams, Brighouse. Oh, go on, Chris.
You've missed a bit with Avenue. I just saw it on the social media a few minutes ago. Will Powell announced as Craig Elliott's number 2.
It's been announced, yeah.
It has been announced.
I may have known about it, but I didn't know when I'm going to get announced. So, yeah.
10 minutes ago.
There we go.
Nice to tell you.
I'll just keep myself up to date. Yeah, cheers, mate. Will Powell, I know that they've been speaking to try and get Will in to help, obviously, Craig kind of rebuild what he wants to rebuild in terms of his new team at Avenue. Obviously, we know Will from his time at Brighouse. Regular contributors will know, like the Damien will know Will as well from his time there. So, yeah, it'll be it's an interesting one because I think, wants to get back into football, wants to obviously help locally. So I think, it's a pretty shrewd appointment. He knows the league inside out. He probably knows contacts that will help players come in, possibly players go out, whatever that looks like. So yeah, there you go. That's kind of breaking news. There you go. Right. And also on kind of Avenue as well, Jodie Tiffany, who's one of the academy prospects, is signed on dual reg with Wakefield. That's also just been announced tonight as well.
He's had a pretty good pre-season as well. I remember seeing him quite often in pre-season for Avenue, Jodie Tiffany. He never looked out of place, shall we say, in a squad full of more senior players.
Yeah, I mean, for Jodie, he's been there at the academy for quite a bit now. It's now time for him to play some proper first-team men's football at this level now, toughen up, and have that experience that he needs, because he's capable. He's got the physique. He's got all the attributes that you probably want from a quite a dominating centre midfielder. So yeah, it'll be interesting how he goes there at Wakefield, which we'll touch on later on. So. Yeah, moving on, Brighouse away to Emily tomorrow night in a bit of a derby. I'm going to go there myself. So if anybody's there, do come and say hi. There you go, James. Thank you, sir. Might see you there. If you do, come and say hello. And then Brighouse again have another West Yorkshire derby on Saturday where they host Liversidge, which leads me nicely onto the last result for Emily, who beat Liversidge 2-0. Obviously, we spoke about their game tomorrow, and they host Newton Aycliffe, and Emily are flying, absolutely flying at the moment. I think, second or third in the league, upsetting a lot of people in this league at the moment. It's kind of no surprise in the respect that they're well supported, got a really good infrastructure with the guys we've obviously spoken to in pre-season. Probably a little bit ahead of where they probably expect to be, if I'm being honest. Suffered quite a few injuries at the back. But have coached with it really well. Richard Tracy's, got a really good mentality, team spirit about the group there at the fantastic media ground. So yeah, Emily, looking good. And then quickly going through again, Gareth have had a weekend off. They're away to Sheffield on Saturday. Ossett United suffered quite a disappointing result at home to Sherwood Colliery in the league, and they host North Ferriby tomorrow night, again, which will be an interesting tie ahead of a trophy game on Saturday. Pontycolls, again, probably expected to maybe pick up 3 points, but drew 1-1 against Concert, who struggled a little bit this season. And they've got a couple of longer trips tomorrow up at Bishop Auckland on a Tuesday night. Don't envy them for that one after doing Ashington last week. Took us 4 hours to get there. Not that it sticks in my mind. And then on Friday night, they travel to City of Liverpool on a Friday night. So like we said last time, if you've not arranged a night out for the weekend, Liverpool, Ponty, you may want to do that. Then quickly wrapping up some of the results from the weekend. Some notable ones. Golka beat Barton Town 2-1. Goole suffered a heavy defeat at home to Albion Sports by 6-2. Silsden won by a penalty away at Handsworth. Fackley, with Ben Gretsch, Brooks Bank in really fine form down there at Denny Field.
Fire, isn't he? On fire.
Absolutely, and scored a hat-trick. And again, Fackley doing Fackley things. Just keep on doing what they're doing really well. In Division 1, Horbury, another team are doing exceptionally well. Second in the league, 1 point behind Wanwell Town. They beat Appleby Fromingham 3-0. Armthorpe Welfare drew 2-2 with Harrogate Railway. Glasshoughton unfortunately suffered a defeat at Athersley Rec 3-1. Ilkley, again, really solid season so far down at Ben Reading, 2-2 against Worsby Bridge. Wakefield, who we mentioned earlier, is really struggling at the moment, in my opinion. They need to really kind of improve a lot from being hotly tipped to be, kind of table toppers, but suffered a 2-1 defeat at Maltby Main. So Wakefield at the moment 14th, which is a surprise for a lot of people. But again, they're not playing at the Wakefield Trinity Stadium anymore, playing down at Featherstone Rovers with that dealer being announced. So I know there's been a bit of kind of shuffle around there. And then finally, kind of Nostell Miners Welfare 0, Swallow Nest 0, South Leeds suffered 3-2 defeat to Selby 3-2. Again, I mentioned the Twitter feed or X feed about them last week saying they were pathetic. I think there's something along the lines of this week. They were 2-0 up and lost 3-2. Seems to be like us at the moment. Just an interesting X feed. You just want to check it out. It does make me chuckle.
Did they go very pathetic?
I mean, Yorkshire Amateurs, unfortunately, are really having it tough. Suffered a 2-0 defeat to Shelley. I mean, in the kind of the northwest side of things, we got Route 1 Rovers had a really, really good result against Strelsden 0-0. Again, not many people probably saw that, but that's a super result for Route 1. And Steeton, by all accounts, showed plenty of character, but suffered a 5-2 defeat at home to Walker All Boys. Plenty of FA VARs, plenty of League Cup, plenty of league fixtures going on this week and through the weekend. I'll be here all night. But again, what we'll do is we'll keep you in check with everything that's happening through our X feed. We do retweet, we repost, comment, like, whatever we try and do to get the word out there. But probably the ones that really stand out across the weekend, I'd say, is an FA VARs with Albion Sports hosting Taddy. Campion are welcoming another North East team in Billingham Cynthia to Manningham Mills. And probably from a fixture perspective is, the game with Eccleshill against Parkgate could be one to watch, in my opinion, I think, at the weekend in the Premier Division, because Eccleshill are going well. Parkgate have started okay-ish, but not set the world alight, which many people expected. So that could be a tough game for Lee Elam side. And Fackley against Hallam for me is a standout, especially with Fackley and Hallam form.
That'll
be a really good game. But as always, like we say, we do keep in touch with our X account. We will keep update with everything going on because there is plenty happening in a non-league scene.
Yeah, I think all them fixtures, I think you missed one. But Barlick, of course, they were in the FA Cup against Curzon Ashton. They lost 6-0, sadly. I was, to be fair, I've seen Barlick a couple of times. We saw the Brighouse game, I think, in the preliminary rounds, Lou, and then I saw him as well when they beat Lancaster in the round before. But yeah, they went out by 6-0, sadly, nationally north side Curzon Ashton. But a great run for Barlick Town on the whole, and the furthest that they've been in the FA Cup in their history to get to that second qualifying round. So
yeah, I think it's a really good point. I mean, Curzon Ashton, kind of the role models for a lot of clubs in non-league to see what they can do. So no disgrace to losing to Curzon Ashton like that. But, and obviously forgot to mention, but again, won't go through the fixtures. But on Wednesday, the West Riding County Cup fixtures were released as well. So again, we did repost some of that. But again, if you're unsure of fixtures, dates, they do change, if I'm being honest, because clubs will try and fit them in and around the league fixtures, even though they can take precedence. So again, check out probably the county's FA website. They've got all the fixtures on there. But as and when it happens, we'll keep you updated. There you go. And breathe.
Well done, and breathe.
They'd like to say, joining us, as you may have noticed, popped up, Jayson Boocker. How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, mate. I'm running around like a blue-ass fly, so I'm sorry that I'm just dashing in at this time of night, you know.
It's okay.
Going nearly an hour, so
it's okay. We'll give you a couple more minutes. We'll turn our attention to Huddersfield Town before we come to you, Jay. Stephen Downs, I mean, a delighted Stephen Downs after the result at the weekend. I mean, nobody quite saw that coming. The pressure well and truly heaped on Ian Everett's Bolton side. A 4-0 humbling for them. And what a win for Michael Duff's side, who might thinking, was he suffering from a touchline ban as well? So he was actually on the touchline for it.
No, he was up in the stands. The FA had decided to send him upstairs.
He'll be doing that week in, week out after that result.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if he is superstitious, but if it were Warnock, he'd be sitting upstairs every game if that was the case until we lost. So, yeah, it was a great win. I didn't think it would go how it did. If I'm honest, didn't go to the game. I was listening to it, and I was sat there. And when we went 4-0 up, I said to my dad, like, "Well, this wasn't supposed to happen." Honest, but I'm delighted that it did. I think there was, a case of Bolton being very poor on the day, and I think we were very good. I think there's not really enough praise being given our way, particularly on the Football League show and around the social media. I think a lot of people are focusing on how bad Bolton were, but you have to give praise to us as well. So yeah, I was delighted with the victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, we as you say, a lot has been said from the Bolton side of things. I mean, I was travelling back from Rochdale and had both BBC Radio Manchester on, just to hear the inevitable meltdown, because I do it quite often, and even after the games last season when they were winning, there were still people wanting Everett to go. But as I say, even from a Bolton fan's perspective, very few people giving any credit Huddersfield's way, as you would kind of expect given the circumstances for them. What's the overall reaction been amongst the town fan base to that result? I'm going to assume a bit of surprise, but obviously positivity as well.
Yeah, a little bit. I think everybody expected it to be a tight, close game. Listen, we've got to be honest, and we've got to say that Bolton are predicted to be up there, and in a large quarter of people's predictions, people were saying that they were going to finish in the top two and finish above Town, which I totally respect, and I understand why they made some people have made that prediction. They are a good team. They've got some very good players. They've got some big centre backs, which we didn't think our forwards, or I didn't think our forwards. I did a show with Callum and Zach and Kane Hall, who's joined the podcast, and we were all saying it's going to be difficult for Josh Karoma or Marshall, who were nippy forwards, really, to physically outdo the Bolton centre-backs. But they found a way, and, Josh scored two goals. One was by a penalty, but his first one was nipping in between the two centre-backs and getting his header there. And then, the pressing for the third and fourth goal, I mean, the fourth goals, both the third and fourth goal are terrible by Bolton. The first thing you do learn as a child is to kick it away, but they obviously had a brain meltdown in the Trotters' defence and didn't do that and thought that they were Barcelona.
It's this obsession with playing out from the back. Yeah. Don't get me started. Don't.
And so we took advantage of that, and Ben Wiles scored a lovely finish, and Anthony Evans scored from a goalkeeping error. So from that angle, it was it's a great display from us. I think the midfield was much better. He actually picked the same team as what's lost against Rotherham, which was interesting and didn't get a very good reaction before the game. But obviously, as usual with football fans, we all said it was a masterstroke from Duff afterwards. And I was pleased for him because I think there was a lot of, when I say a lot, I think there was a bit of pressure on him going into the fixture after the week that we'd had before the international break.
Can I just say though, just before you can digest it a little bit more, that fourth goal from Bolton is exactly what you should not be doing when you're losing 3-0 at home under pressure towards the bottom of the league.
No.
And try and build confidence. That is not
It
the
was
way.
horrific,
Even if you get out of that situation, you're still 3-0 down and you're still going to lose the game. There's no win-win out of that situation. And don't get me wrong, Dan, and I know I listened to your shout podcast and I get it that you obviously pressed enough to force a mistake. But I also, which, credit where credit's due, but I also think, what on earth are you doing trying to play football in that area when the game and the scenario is what it is? It's just crazy.
Welcome to football in 2024 where everyone wants to be fecking Pep.
Well, I've seen 3 angles of what the goalkeeper is looking to do. And in none of the 3 angles, I can't, and I know I'm blind, but I genuinely can't see what pass he's actually trying to do. There's not a Bolton player that would get to the ball before a Town player, because if you freeze frame it, every Bolton player is 2 yards behind the Town man. So I don't really understand what he's trying to do.
If you have 2 or 3 chances to just clear the ball,
get rid of
it.
I'm talking about the 4th goal, Lou. Talking about the 4th goal with the goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you still have 3 or 4 opportunities to get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's like Lou says, isn't it? Like when you it's game situation. Like the game situation, if you're 3-0 down, you just do the basics right and get rid of the ball.
Yeah,
but I have to say that the atmosphere in that stadium was toxic.
Yeah, and you know what? I could almost. I'm not saying it's right because sometimes it's not the right way to do it. But if you're 2-0 down and you're trying to play your way through the lines and get yourself up the pitch and you've got the players and the confidence to do it, absolutely, I can kind of get it. And if you lose 3-0, you go, oh, you know what? We tried it, didn't work, but not in that situation. And yeah, credit where Huddersfield are due, Dan, and I know you'll go on about it more, but I also got to say it was absolutely awful. And if you're a Bolton fan, and I know that obviously you guys spoke to him on a season review, it doesn't seem like there's much way back just from that one incident. And we were talking about the situations with City, weren't we, earlier? I know we'll talk about it with Leeds, but there's certain things in a game that you can't defend, and you cannot defend something like that. And listen, you'd already seen the game up, but there's other instances. I've seen your game against Bolton. And listen, you did the job right, but wow, you were against some opposition that just didn't turn up for me.
I'm not sure if any of you...
We're seeing it with Southampton at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
This is. I mean, they've now got more possession than any other team in the Premier League, including Manchester City, and they've got nothing to show for it because they're not good enough to be able to do it against the opposition that they're doing it. They're doing it for the sake of doing it. It's crazy.
It's like Burnley did it last year, didn't they? Burnley were exactly the same.
But you know what? The problem is out of this.
Russell
Chris.
The problem out of this, the Barcelona job.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but the problem is out of this is that company's gone to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I said it. We might have said this on the pod. Someone said it. Someone said it to me. If you'd been in a coma for a year and you woke up and saw that Vincent Kompany had gone to Bayern Munich, you would have said, bloody hell, Burnley must have had a great season.
Ian Everett will be announced as Real Madrid manager tomorrow, just to let everybody know.
Well, I'm going to come back to him just before we kind of move on to looking ahead for Huddersfield. I'm not expecting anyone to necessarily have heard Ian Evans post match from Saturday.
Yeah, I have.
But if you haven't, give it a watch or a listen. Honestly, he is a broken man. He talks about just the depression, the slump almost from losing the playoff final, how they just can't shake it off. He is a genuinely broken man. But I don't think he's going to walk away at this stage, despite...
There was a rumour this morning, Chris. There was a rumour this morning that he was very close to being given the chop, but it sounds like that they're going to keep him. And I think he's probably only got one or 2 weeks left, and then he's gone. So, listen, we did the job. We did the job we needed to do, and end of the day, as we've said before, and I think it's one of Lou's sayings, you can only play what's in front of you, and that's what we played. And fair play to Josh Karoma. He had a 10-hour flight on Thursday back from Africa, paid for his own upgrade on his flight so he could get back to sunny Huddersfield.
He is a footballer.
No, but still, I know he's a footballer, but that still shows commitment to, he's gone on 6 flights across Africa during the international break. One was a 10-hour flight to get back to Huddersfield on Thursday, to then go training, to then train on Friday and play on Saturday. So fair, I can't knock the lads' commitment to do that. You'd have lads in the past at town that wouldn't even do that. In fact, they'd fly from Africa to go to Spain on an holiday for 2 days before match. So
if I'm not in charge, I think I'd do the same, to be honest.
I was going to say they'd probably be on a 10-hour flight to get away from Huddersfield.
All right. It's not that bad. Jesus.
Going forward then, Downsy, Cobblers.
Yeah, it's a load of old cobblers, isn't it? I think we're the big thing now is you can go beat Bolton 4-0, but you have to back it up now.
Yeah,
against
don't lose to Northampton Town is the next message, isn't it?
Basically you can't do what probably Halifax are going to do on Saturday. You can't go win one of the better teams, or supposedly one of the better teams, and then not get a result against Northampton. It's going to be a different game entirely. Like, I expect Northampton to become and be quite physical. I think they have signed some good players though in the transfer window, so they're not a terrible team. But Town need to step up. The players need to step up. It's all right turning up for the big games in a big stadium. 30,000, 35,000 or whatever it holds. But you've got to do it on your own games as well against the smaller opposition. And I just hope we got back-to-back home games now. And it'd be lovely if we could get 6 points from this back-to-back home games against Northampton and then Blackpool.
The almighty Steve Bruce's Blackpool, no less.
Yeah, and Steve Bruce managed Town for 2 years between 1999 and 2001. He's not the most liked ex-Town manager, if I'm being honest.
We'll be happy then.
There's reasons behind that, and he doesn't. I don't think necessarily like us either, to be fair. So it might be a bit of a feisty game on that Tuesday. So yeah, we need to get 6 points really.
Are you keeping an eye on the Birmingham Wrexham game, Downsy?
Well, I've been on here, but Chris has been updating us. Apparently, is it 1-1?
Yeah, one piece at half time in the Hollywood derby.
David Beckham's coming on as a Birmingham sub, apparently. So, it's all there.
They're broadcasting it elsewhere in America, though, aren't they?
It's on NBC.
CBS or something.
Yeah, it's on CBS or NBC, I think.
Yeah.
Big viewing on
We're talking about wanting it played in America, aren't they? Someone said they'd like to have seen it played in America.
I just hate that. I just
go and do it. Bye bye.
Yeah, I just hate it. But like to be fair, we put that to Nagel, didn't we, Chris? I don't know if it was recorded when we said that, but you mentioned it. I'm sure we mentioned it, and basically Kevin said, we respect the traditions of British football, but we don't need to be taking our games over there. Which, fair play to him. Plus, there's probably only about 2 people in America that's heard of Huddersfield anyway. So,
Well, the whole time.
We had Will Ferrell at our game. That's the big Hollywood star you need.
Yeah.
Elf, come on.
Russell Leeds on as well.
What's that?
Russell Crowe Leeds.
Yeah.
He's a
massive. Yeah, I think he's an investor now as well.
I like Russell. He played Robin Hood.
You'll be in New Zealand next.
Yeah.
I've always thought Big Yellow Taxi was one of the best hits. Oh, sorry, that's Sheryl Crow, isn't it?
Get in the bin, Chris.
Let's wrap up the Huddersfield Town with the predictions. Let's start with you.
So shall I go first?
No, I'm gonna start with Gaz.
All
See
right.
if he returns the favour since you predicted a Bradford defeat.
Yeah, but I did. Go on. No, go on.
For the Northampton game, Chris,
Yes.
you're at home, aren't you, Downsy?
Yeah.
You'll win that game 3-1. Although Northampton will come and play good football because they always did when they were in League Two. They have a very distinctive attacking, good footballing style of play. So it should be a decent game, but I think you'll win 3-1.
Yeah, good
Cheers,
man.
big bro.
Spelling John Brady. Lewis?
I'm going to go 2-0. I might regret saying that, but I'm going to go 2-0 to Town.
I'm going to go 2-1 Huddersfield Town in this one. Browney? I know you
1-0.
didn't. You missed
I've
the
got to
Bradford.
catch up on a few results.
Yeah.
Predictions. Yeah, I go 1-0.
Jay?
Tricky one. Because I think on the back of a good result, you'd expect... Is it a home, did you say?
Yeah, at home to Northampton Town.
I think you'd be struggling to go against Town for that. 2-0.
There we go. Positive results all round, apart from... Actually, all round. It's just Browney that's saying you're dropping points. Whilst we've got you, before we start the lead stuff, the Bradford predictions we should probably do with you guys as well.
Am I predicting Town's result, or are we?
I mean, go on then.
Go on.
3-1 Town.
There we go. Bradford, they've got Mansfield away in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. Sorry, Downsy. And then they've got Wimbledon at home at the weekend, Browney. So you've got Mansfield in the cup that, let's be honest, even Gaz.
Yeah, we did. Are we bothering with that? Should we just do Wimbledon?
Well,
or have you all done?
No, Browney, we've done both.
All right, okay. 2-0 to Bradford City against Mansfield.
I was about to say, to give you a clue, I think we all went for a Bradford defeat against Mansfield because we were like, he's going to play the kids.
We've got no centre halves.
Browney's gone for a win, though. He's locked it in now.
As it stands, Downsy's got a chance of getting a contract to play centre half against Mansfield tomorrow night for City.
Can I just say, all my predictions are going to be negative because I put the bet on, for all our teams to win this weekend, by the way. Yeah, and the first result, Leeds lost at 12:30, lost the bet.
Never.
You know what you need to get down?
Thank you, Leeds.
Yeah.
Never back your own team.
Brownie, you need to put over results to lose, mate. And then you might win.
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually.
You need a
reverse
psychology.
Yeah.
Worst one, Brownie, with the 12:30 as well, because it's just bet down, weekend ruined, isn't it? It's just
awful, Gaz. Absolutely awful, mate. Honestly, not covered yet.
Brownie, Wimbledon at home for Bradford on Saturday.
1-0 to Bradford.
Jay.
Fair play to Wimbledon getting a big win against MK Dons.
Yeah.
That was nice to see.
Yeah.
Top of the league.
Say again.
The top of the league.
Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second.
I think they played a game less, haven't they?
The fifth.
Notts County go top. They're definitely up there.
County are top. Wimbledon currently fifth, but with a game in hand.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm going to say, I'm going to pick a bad week for Bradford. I'm sorry, guys. I think 3-1 against Mansfield, and I think you're going to lose again against Wimbledon as well. I think they'll be just absolutely bouncing on the back of that, and I think you're going into it with a bit of a sticky wicket with injuries and a bit of a feeling around it. So yeah, I think 2-0 at home. Sorry.
Yeah, they were top. Sorry, they were top, weren't they? When they played the same games, but they've a game in hand, like you rightly say now. Yeah.
Alexander
playing some good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Sitting downers today, isn't it?
Sorry.
Let's turn our attention.
I feel terrible.
I mean, I feel really good saying that it's going to be a 3-3 draw, but I'm just sticking with my goal fest. That's what I'm doing. And at some point, it'll come off.
Please predict that every week.
Well, I did for something last week. Obviously, it didn't happen. It might have been Leeds, I think. I think it went 3-3. And let's use that as the segue into the Leeds United section. Browney, Jay, a 1-0 defeat in the War of the Roses on Saturday. Browney, let's start with you. Your take on the result and the performance overall?
Yeah, it was kind of, I mean, if nobody's seen it, me and Jay, we did a good little show on it yesterday, a good chat about it, where we got it off his chest a little bit. It was a game of two halves, the old cliche. It was first half, should have been 3-0 up. Dodgy penalty decision, one of the worst you'll see. Nonto, Joseph, missing gilt edge chances. I mean, Joseph's, it gets worse every time you watch it. You're looking at this guy saying, this is the guy who needs to lead the line. He's the one who needs to put the ball in the net. He gets a golden opportunity that he earned because he pressed the defender, did really well to earn that chance. He's got to score it. He's absolutely got to score it. And even when we went behind, I still thought we were doing well. We stuck to the plan. We were creating opportunities and it was okay. Burnley didn't have much, to be honest. And the second half, you go in, all the criticism Farke gets, you look at that second half and you're looking at it going, it's justified, or part of it's justified, because everything we've been saying for a year came to fruition. You know, substitutions, predictable substitutions, loss of shape in the team, and didn't create anything second half, which is just criminal when you know you 1-0 behind. I mean, at the end, I mean, it's the 95th minute, and you know, you're talking about the Pep thing. I mean, we're passing it around the back, and you're just screaming, get it forward, do something, go direct, mix it up. I mean, we put no pressure on Burnley at all, and we were losing 1-0. So what I'm frustrated about is that now it's a split fan base, so there's a lot of people that are on one extreme or the other extreme. Farke is the best thing since Bielsa, or you know, it's Farke out is useless. It's frustrating because, you know, it's not the start that we wanted. It's not the start that we expected, really. So yeah, it's one of those games. It left more questions than answers, and there's quite a lot of pressure on next week. We'll be playing bottom of the league, and it's got to be 3 points, and we need to go on a run. We definitely do. But like I say, on another day, it would have been 3-0. It would have been absolutely fine. If that first goal goes in, it would have been absolutely fine. We don't have any of these conversations, and we'd have been saying, is smash Parker a bit like what Jay was saying yesterday, and it looks great, but it's frustrating because it leaves all these kind of unanswered questions about Farke, and yeah, it's just a shame, really.
Jay, I mean, look, as Browney says, that big glaring chance at 0-0 for Mateo Joseph. I mean, we kind of talked about it a lot in pre-season. We're doing season previews and that sort of thing in terms of that number 9 shirt weighing. You know, it's a big shirt to fill at Elland Road, or that, you know, that main striking role. Are you looking at this thinking anybody else in that squad, striker-wise, would have finished it? And are you thinking, is it still a bit of a case for maybe we should have got an extra, you know, a big name striker, you know, in you know how I mean?
Yeah, I think the case is that, to answer that question, no, they wouldn't, because Pat would have created that exact same chance and missed it exactly.
Yeah, he would.
The problem that comes with the Leeds fan bases is they want to ignore that Mateo Joseph has done that and kind of just give him the pass, which I get because he's young. But the abuse and grief that Pat would have got for the last 4 years for doing exactly that, because the agenda has always been with Pat that he would create them chances, he'd get in their moments, but then never finish them. But now we want to kind of rewrite that narrative and be like, well, Mateo's created that chance, Pat would never have created that anyway. That's absolutely waffle. And Mateo's missed 3 real key chances, especially the one against Portsmouth and then that one the other day. The facts are is that games like that are decided on moments just like that. They're going to always be. I picked 1-0 to Leeds in the preview with Browney. I always thought it was going to be super tight. It'd be a game with few chances. And the facts are is that we created the majority of them, and we missed the 2 gilt-edged chances, the 2, you know, the 2 that we got in the first half, and obviously the clear penalty that wasn't given. That's where these kind of games hinge on. And they had 1 chance. They had 1 moment where Manon Solomon slips in an attacking corner, for God's sake, and runs 100 yards to the other end and slots it past the hologram. Like, we would have missed that chance, or James Trafford would have pulled out a worldy save, because that's just the difference with the way that certainly the game went, but the way that it feels like it goes for us from time to time. But yeah, I don't. In analysing the game more and more, and I've watched a lot of content on it today, and I've seen a lot of deep dive analysis kind of takeouts of the way that Burnley set up. I think Daniel Farke set the team up fine. We played the first half extremely well. I thought we played exactly the way that you would be hoping to play against another promotion rival. They came and sat 10 players behind the ball. Watch the analysis. They did a good job in the most part in plugging the gaps and stopping us playing in the half spaces. But ultimately, we still created 3 massive moments, 2 of which we didn't take, 1 of which the referee let us down in. And that's all you can really hope for in a game that's going to be like that. If a team comes and sets up extremely well in a low block, no matter who you are, it's extremely difficult to break down. That's why you see Man City struggle till the 80th minute from time to time to break a team down. They have a cheat code in Haaland that just steps up and and blows through the doors eventually, but ultimately still the best teams in the world struggle against a low block. So if you do it effectively at this level, it can work. But we score that chance after 50 seconds and the game's totally different. Do I wish we'd have gone and got another number 9? I said it dinner to you, Browney. We should have been looking to still recruit in that area. I was confident after pre-season that Matteo would do a job, but from what I've seen in competitive championship action, I'm really worried. I don't think he gives us. So many fans are going to go mad at me about this. Honestly, if we were a huge channel, I'd be getting clipped up like. But he gives us nothing more than what Pat gives us when he's fully fit. Nothing. Right now, he's missing the target just like Pat did. He's not as good at pressing, and I would argue that he doesn't link play up better than Pat. There were times at the weekend where Esteve and Worrell were bullying him. And Worrell's an absolute mincemeat defender at this level. He's average. Esteve's class. I really like him. I think he's probably the best centre-back in the division. But Pat had bothered them. I didn't feel like Joseph did enough throughout the game. But
I think that's one of my concerns, and it's actually something that I didn't have my eye on over the summer, actually, because it was almost, I don't know, it was like Joseph is going to be the main striker, and it was almost not even a conversation. It was just suddenly he's going to be the main striker after not leading the line last year, not playing much last year. It was like all of a sudden, this guy's going to be the man. And it is a bit concerning. It is a bit concerning because it's costing us. It is costing us. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes do you ever feel with managers, it's almost the wind is just going against them a little bit, and things are just going against that manager, and it feels like we're slowly heading to this point where it's just going against Farker a little bit. Daft things are happening. That opening game, it's like, that is ridiculous. We win that comfortably another day. And I feel like the penalty decision, these little things are starting to happen, missing glorious chances. And it's almost like, I don't know. With
Browney, the patience is too thin. It's way too thin. This kind of narrative and cloud that is hanging over Daniel Farker. And I look, we're going to analyse the game a little bit more. We did it in detail yesterday. But he's got negatives, and there's problems that he created in the second half, especially, that I'm not happy with. I'm not here defending Daniel Farker. As you said at the start, both angles can actually be correct. You can have a defence of him and be okay with the way that he set up the team and not blame him for losing yesterday, and also have a criticism of what happened in the second half. It doesn't have to be one extreme or the other. But this line that's around him is just not right. The form carrying over from last season into this season is a topic of conversation. I get it. And after the Middlesbrough result, I understood why it was quite prominent to talk about that. But since then, we've gone away to West Brom, who now everybody wants to write off, look at how well they're doing. They're amazing. The only points that they've dropped only team that they've dropped points for this season is us at home. So, we want to kind of create this narrative around Farker. 3 clean sheets in a row going into yesterday's game against who most people would argue are going to finish in the top 2 or 3. I don't think they will. I really don't. There was nothing that I saw yesterday that made me think, oh my God, this is a team that we should be really scared of. I just don't see it. So I think this narrative around him is so unfair. And Leeds fans are just spoiled by the football that we had under Bielsa. I seem to say it every week now.
I think this is a problem. I think this is a narrative that's building up, and I feel like it's almost getting to a situation where every little thing that happens, it's going under the microscope and it's getting blown up for probably bigger than what it is. I mean, there's an XG table where we're top of it, aren't we, for the start of the season, and missed the most big chances, typical Leeds. But I don't know. It's weird. Football's weird, and sometimes when it's just not going for you, every little mistake is punished. Everything is punished, and sometimes that can end up, costing you your job.
Results like the other day happen. They just happen in football. They happen to all teams. So we shouldn't just be like throwing everything out now because of what. If we'd have got battered 3-0 by Burnley, you're having a different conversation. But we deserve to win the game. On the grand scheme of what happened in that game, the second half wasn't good, and there's stuff that we can dissect and complain about. But we deserve to win that game. They had one chance on goal. 1.
Yeah.
And he had to carry the ball 100 yards unanswered to get it. That's not on Daniel Farke. That's on the players. You know, and it's on a slip. Like, there was a mistake that happened, and then what happened then after Bogle defending and all that. That's nothing to do with the way that Farke set us up. It's got nothing to do really with the way that Parker set his team up either.
Yeah, that's why it's so frustrating, isn't it? We didn't get any of what we deserved, did we? And it's just a lot of bad luck. A lot of bad luck in one game. Just unbelievable.
Have you seen the Rodon chance today, by the way? It
No.
doesn't really make the kind of highlights packages because he misses a header from 3 yards out.
Oh.
He misses it completely. It's one of them where it can't be a highlight because he misses it, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But
He didn't get any contact.
He didn't get any contact. It's a complete clear header. It's completely unmarked, 3 yards out. It's just literally head the ball in the net. One of them kind of ones. I saw it back on a phone today. I saw it at the time and then like kind of just left it in the past.
Farke's fault.
Anyway.
He needed to get on and head that ball.
Exactly. Like, that's just...
He needed to do
I mean, look, I'm just going to bring back Ryan's point back up then. I mean, do you think this is a fair point from Ryan? That some Leeds fans need to look back at before Bielsa to actually realise what position you're in now compared to, you know, where you were, 5-6 years ago? Is that going back to when Bielsa first arrived?
I get that. I totally get that. But we've been to the Premier League and this is our opportunity. Our best opportunity is going to be getting back to the Premier League as soon as possible. So that's fine. Yeah, we're miles better than we were pre-Bielsa, but that doesn't mean we have to be happy kind of slowly getting back to those levels again. We need to get promoted this season. We have to get promoted this season.
It's where the yards.
That's what's fueling it as well, isn't it?
I mean, there is almost an air of desperation around this season because we understand what's going to happen if we don't go up this season. I do get that, but I do think that the bar is so high because of the football that we enjoyed under Bielsa and obviously the success that we enjoyed under Bielsa, that now Danny Farke's got this kind of impossible... You said to me, are we going to have this after every game that we lose? We are going to lose games this season. Like, we've lost one. It's not the end of the world. We shouldn't be just like, Danny Farke out now. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, honestly, we were so spoiled for them years that it's just made some fans so irrational to the responses of losing a game or a bad performance.
Picking up on what Browney was saying regarding the, late in the game, still kind of trying to play it from the back sort of thing. Is there an element, though, of this which is actually still a stubbornness from Farke to not mix things up, to not try a different approach to the whole system overall? Because obviously it seems to have been a very set idea, a set way of doing things since he walked through the door. And is he actually just lacking that ability to think, sod it, we're 1-0 down against a promotion rival, all guns blazing, everything at them sort of thing?
Can I just answer that first, Browney?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
I've watched a lot of the analysis today of the way that Burnley played and the passing around the back to try and bring them out and all the rest of it. Now, when you're 1-0 down, it's difficult, especially late into the game. You have to kind of change that up. But what I would say in defence, I'm going to kind of bash Farke and defend him at the same time with this.
This will be good.
He hasn't got the profiles on the bench, Ramazani aside, I would say, to really change that game. Not all games, but that game. He hasn't got a target man striker that he can bring on. Pirro's not that. Bamford could be, but he wasn't on the bench anyway.
Yeah.
So then what do? Do you stick Joe Rodon or Pascal Struijk up front and go like old school League One where you're just lumping it to a centre-back? Like, no, I don't think you do. I think you're just looking like you've lost the plot if you do that. So you have to try and make plan A better. And so I get, given what we had, we probably couldn't change it much in terms of the style. However, now I'm going to bash Farke. What he did do at the weekend, in the second half, he lost the plot completely. He had Gruev at centre-back. He had Byram and Bogle both playing right back at one point. He brought Pirro and Rothwell on for Aronson and I forget who the other change was at the time, but he brought Aronson off, who was arguably our most kind of direct, quirky, opening space kind of player, and brought Pirro on, who's stiff. Like, we were already struggling to get through the gaps and the lines anyway. So then why would you bring somebody on that struggles with that more? It just didn't make sense. So he tried to change the game, but I think inadvertently made it worse. I think there were a little bit of air of desperation happening in that second half when we just weren't breaking them down. So
I was just going to say, I think one of the things maybe subconsciously back of our minds is that Farke was, let's be honest, a boring appointment. the smart appointment and the obvious appointment and the appointment that probably 99 times out of 100 Leeds fans would make. And I think there's a little bit of a kind of maybe a thing at the back of people's minds going, well, ultimately it's not enough, or it's not this kind of, left field, out of the blue appointment. It was a very obvious thing to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Burnley getting company, and it kind of being this transformative thing. So I don't know if there's a bit of that going on, but this micro-analysis is going to go on all season, I think.
I really like Corberan. I don't want to get into a massive Corberan deep dive, right? But people think he's like Bielsa. He's not. His tactics are completely different to Bielsa's, right? That's the first thing. If he wasn't Bielsa's assistant, I'm telling you, there would be no Leeds fans asking for him. He'd been the ex-town manager that went to Greece and got sacked after 30 days. That's what it would be. But because he was Bielsa's sidekick, everybody wants it. Now, I'm not saying he'd be a bad appointment. I would actually love him as a manager because I like a lot about what he brings as a tactician, as a style. He changes per game and he's got some adaptability to the way that he manages and plays football. But I'm telling you, he's not the exciting football that some Leeds fans think that he is. He's not. And they've got this deluded kind of vision. Oh, it's going to be like that pressing Bielsa ball. It's not.
I mean, Downsy, you obviously had that season with Corberan. You can kind of almost give the Leeds fans that are crying for Corberan that kind of warning almost.
Yeah, most of the games that we had under Carlos, and listen, he's going to be managing a lot better players at Leeds than what he did at Town. Let's get that right for a start off. But and it's his credit, by the way, that he got us to a playoff final. He coached that team to play in the certain way that he did. So he might adapt his style to the better players that Leeds have, but it's not sort of front foot attacking pressing football. It's more like trying to suffocate like each team in the midfield. So he puts a lot of emphasis of closing down in the midfield when the ball gets to like the centre circle style. A lot of fixtures were boring. Like they just were. They weren't exciting to watch. There's a lot of passes that you think, why are we just passing it there for passing its sake? A little bit like under Russell Martin. Like I'm not going to say that the styles are the same, but yeah, Leeds fans, if you want Corberan, you can't expect Bielsa football because, as Jay says, his style is different. And yeah, it would be different. I think the points that I'd like to make is that I think is there a case of Farker not being able to mentally change the Leeds squad? I think sometimes you go into games and I know you talk about substitutions and sort of you got to make plan A better. I maybe think that's more down to mentality than physicality. I do accept though and agree that you probably have three strikers in Perot, Joseph and Bamford. Two are very similar and one's doesn't necessarily, you have to put him in certain situations for him to work. I think, Perot is a great striker, but he doesn't necessarily offer the dynamic sort of physical element up there that you need. I just wonder whether there's a case of this season, and I don't know about the new players, so you might be able to tell me different. But last season, at least, you had a very sort of technically different front line. Nonto, Somerville, and then whoever the striker was. They were all very different type of players. Maybe you haven't got that this season. Maybe they're all too similar, except for Dan James, who I really like. I don't think you utilise him enough. That's
injured, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was injured, but I still don't think you necessarily utilise him enough. And the other thing that I'd say is that it was 100% a penalty, and how it wasn't given is an absolute disgrace to the way that the PGMOL is. It just is. It's just disgusting. But credit to Burnley, although they only created one chance, they did stick that away, and at the end of the day, that's what matters. You didn't score any goals, and they scored one, and that's why they've won. I watched the game. I thought Leeds were a miles a better team. If I was a fan in the stadium, would I rather watch Leeds play than Burnley? well, obviously I'm a Town fan, so but putting that aside,
I mean, that's supposed to be a rock and a hard place for Town fans, that isn't it? Between
But-
Leeds and Burnley.
but putting that aside and
To be
not
fair,
being
Burnley don't
not
always
being
play like that,
biased.
though.
No, I know, but not being biased, I'd rather watch Leeds football than the way Burnley played. But I understand why Burnley did the things that they did, and I also agree. You know, we've had conversations in the group chat about like Trafford going down, holding the ball. It pees me off as much as anybody else to see a goalkeeper have the ball for 20 seconds. But that's just what teams do. We talked about like making substitutions earlier. I've genuinely seen a team change their left back and left winger and go to the other side of the pitch. In fact, they're nearly in the opposite stand and walk all the way across to the dugout. But it's just what teams do, unfortunately. And
You're not
Scott
allowed to do that
Parker.
anymore.
Yeah,
I've got
you
no
know.
problem with the team doing it. I've got a problem with the officials not officiating it.
100%.
Yeah,
That's
which
where
I
my problem
agree
is.
with that. I agree
Teams
with
are always going to try different things to, you know, get the edge in a game. And I understand lesser players, bridge that gap, get it. Just officiate the game, officials.
But they're not strong enough, Jay. That's the
They're
problem.
not.
They're not.
They're absolutely pathetic. The
They're
yellow
not
card
mentally
that-
strong enough.
The yellow
Yeah.
card that Bashir has got was probably, I would say, the third or fourth that they should have got for delaying a throw-in, wasting time. He should have had 2 for doing it. And then they send him off in the 97th minute to just say, oh, look, I've given him a red card. Like, no, that red card should have come 30, 40 minutes before that. Or there should have been several other yellow cards so they would have been less likely to carry on doing it. That's just officiate the game. That's all I ask for.
This comes back to what we were talking about earlier about referees, and it's basically what Jay's just said there is exactly what Graham Alexander said about referees. You officiate the game, just do your job and officiate the game. It's what we were talking about before, and it happens at every level, and it's so frustrating. And Jim Rayner actually asked Graham Alexander, how do you combat that? And he's like, well, you can't. What
It's
can
impossible.
you do?
I mean, we kind of went over this the other day because I do think in terms of the way that a team comes to Ellen Road and potentially sets up, Danny Fagg has to do some things differently. He has to find ways of unpicking a low block or, you know, but then you effectively deal with the time wasting as best as you can in your, in you know, with what you have at your control. I get that. And there is things that he should do tactically that could improve that. But ultimately, you have to let the referees do their job.
Would you agree? Would you agree with the point that I made? I don't know who wants to answer it, Browney or Jay, about the fluidity of your forward line, though. Do you think it's dynamic enough?
I actually, I mean, the Sheffield Wednesday game and the whole game, I was really encouraged. I thought actually we've kind of evolved a little bit actually, because it seemed a little bit less individual. It kind of seemed to rely less on Jorginho Rutter picking it up and dribbling it past 4 players, and I thought it was evolved. And actually, I mean, we started off the weekend's game exactly on the same kind of footing, and that's why if we'd have scored them goals and taken our chances, nobody's saying anything. I was really encouraged by what I saw in the Sheffield Wednesday and Hull game. I think there has been, because that's one of the things about Farke. This is the other criticism, is that actually he doesn't really, he can't coach the attacking side of the game, or patterns of plays. That was the thing, wasn't it? Patterns of play. We always kind of said, and I look, I've said that stuff myself, and I've been frustrated with games. But no, I think that there has been a change. I think the forward line is fine now. I don't think we miss Rutter and Somerville.
They're dynamic enough, you think?
I think they are. I think maybe we've lost a bit of that kind of crazy top end talent, but I mean, someone like Solomon. I mean, he's a ridiculous player.
Browney,
I think the balance through the squad is better this season.
Solomon is more ready for the level of football than Somerville was. Solomon is more of a complete player at the age that he's at, with the experience that he's got, than Chris Somerville is right now for West Ham.
Yeah.
The only reason that Manor Solomon's playing in the Championship is because of his injury record. So if he's fully fit, I would argue he's a better player. Now, I'm not saying he's got a better potential, but I would argue he's a better player.
As if by magic.
You absolutely could. Right, Ryan's spot on. And I would also argue, I'm not saying that Brendan Aronson is a better player than Jorginho Rutter, but I would argue he's more natural at the 10. If you see him in them half spaces when he's close up to defenders, he's better at manipulating the ball under more pressure. Rutter's better when he's got big open spaces and he's spreading his running stride and he's bursting away from players. Georgina Rutter's not a 10.
Well,
Brendan Anderson's more of a 10 than Rutter is.
One of the problems you could argue this season now is it's problems the other way as well that are popping up. I mean, Bogle, big questions about him defensively.
Yeah.
Joe Roden, I don't know what's happened to Joe Roden this season, but he doesn't look like the player he was last season so far. So you could argue actually it's going the other way that's causing a few issues as well. You know, the keeper for me should have been replaced. That should have been something that should have been dealt with in the summer. You know, I think me and Jason probably share concerns about Pascal Stroik as well, generally. So, you know,
when you call him hologram, by the way, makes me laugh like hell when you call him hologram.
He just don't save anything. He just doesn't save anything. Like, just save something sometime. That's all I ask him, Elliot. Like, just
you mean do his job?
Yeah,
just occasionally. Just honestly, it drives me mad.
Do what you say to do.
All right, are we looking at a Leeds squad that actually, as pleased as you were come the deadline passing on deadline day, are we actually looking at a squad where you're looking back and thinking, sugar, we really should have strengthened the keeper and situation? Or were you happy then and it's just not going?
I still think it's stronger. I still think it's stronger, Chris, than last season. I do.
But like, still with weaknesses in certain areas, though.
Yeah, but all teams have weaknesses. Yeah. Burnley lined up with Jadon Anthony at left midfield and Josh Laurent in centre midfield and, Joe Worrell. Like, I wouldn't want Joe Worrell. Like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't, like, Connor Roberts.
I wouldn't want him either.
I find it really interesting listening to it because I know what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with it. But I also think that you potentially losing, especially the likes of Somerville and Rutter. And I know Gray's a bit of an anomaly because he was a central midfielder playing at right back and all that. But I just think in the big moments, those are the players that you could do with at this moment in time.
I hear that. Because I hear that because I think Somerville scores the chance that Nonto has the other day. I think he definitely scores the chance that Joseph has. And you can bank on that. That's what we had with Somerville last season.
I think that's what you're lacking this season.
I hear that. But I think Solomon's that. I think Solomon will end up being that player to score them goals. And we've not seen any of Ramazani yet. We don't really know how good he's going to be. Dan James has been injured, unfortunately. Dan James, contributed something like, I think it was 18 G&A last year. Like, he was a big part of us last season. So yeah,
Somerville better than Nonto, in my opinion.
Somerville is better than Nonto. He is better than Nonto.
I think I was watching Nonto sometimes, and maybe this is unfair, but this is only what I've seen. Sometimes, and I hear what Browney said sometimes, like when you've discussed him. I don't think sometimes he's up for it or up for the physical battle, where I think Somerville didn't mind doing that.
I think there's an obvious reason why he's the one that's still there, and I don't just mean because he didn't have a release clause at the time. I think there is a reason why he's the one that, despite all the talk for the last 18 months or whatever, he's the one that actually no club has thought or has been willing to put the money where they're, to back the transfer and make it happen to get him, sort of thing.
I've said for a while, Anna Browney, like, I'm not fully convinced by him. I've said it for a long time. Like, I think he lives on a few good games in a terrible team when we're in the Premier League, when he first kind of burst onto the scene. And I think Leeds have this kind of picture in the head of this Italian international, which kind of gives him a bit of a weird sense of being an elite player because he's an Italian international. He was playing under Mancini at the time in a squad that was just bereft of any sort of talent, and he's been dropped for a couple of years now. And in the Championship, really, the good games that he's had have been few and far between. Less than 10. I would say less than 10.
He had that great run before he got injured. Before, I think it was up to the international break.
Yeah.
But that was, it wasn't the whole season. It's definitely not the whole season.
I think I said this before about Nonto, and in my opinion, you guys see more than often than me. I think if Nonto is the main man and the squad is built around him, he's the focal point. He will get you out of it, whatever. I think that's when he thrives. But I think because you've got good strength in depth and you've got options, I think that's where it differs. And I think that's probably where he doesn't stand out as much. But if you didn't bring, your wingers, Solomon, Tanaka, etc. in, I think he'd actually probably do better, if I'm being honest. I actually think he plays better without less competition.
I think there's definitely an argument to say that he has to play on the left to get the best out of him. And while Solomon's at the club, he's not going to play him there.
Can that Solomon play in different positions, Jay?
He can, but he's best off the left. He can play off the right, and he can play in the 10 as well. But I don't see him doing that with him. I think Solomon will end up being.
What's Ramazani? Is Ramazani left or right foot?
He's right-footed. He usually plays off the left as well, but I think he will be more the pace merchant down the right side. Apparently, he's faster than Dan James. He's absolutely rapid, apparently.
Nonto, you can only play in that one position, can't you?
Well, Nonto played the whole of last season off the right and was always, in my opinion, really ineffective in comparison to what Dan James gives us down that side. He doesn't like going onto his stronger foot. He likes cutting in onto the right foot from the left-hand side.
Two very different players.
Yeah, they're completely different players. But he had to play there last season, did Nonto, because Somerville had boxed off the left wing. So Nonto couldn't displace Somerville off the left, and for large parts of the season couldn't displace James off the right either. So, and then obviously Russell played in the 10. So, look, I'm happy with the window still, Chris. To kind of get back to your question, Tanaka, great signing. You know, the boys that we've brought in, we just need a little bit of time for them to gel. Browney's spot on with the right-hand side of the defence. Rodon is a worry because he's not started this season like I would have expected, but he did have Ampadu alongside him last season, and I'm still not fully convinced on Pascal.
Yeah.
I'm not. And Bogle has had a shaky start to life at Leeds, I will say that.
Likelihood then that actually there might be a way, that Falcon might make that change, might be more inclined to actually reunite the Rodon Ampadu pairing at the back because of the fact that you've got other central midfield options now that you perhaps didn't have last season.
It's never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Okay, why not? As to a neutral, you know, why not? Why is this not likely to happen when it worked so well with them two last season? Surely even he can look at that and think, good pairing last season, Rodon playing out of his skins, Ampadu playing well in that role. If it's, you know, if there are flaws in the back line now, why would you not go back to what's worked previously?
You still got the back end of last season where there was cracks in it.
Right.
And I do think he ultimately sees Ampadu as an out-and-out midfielder, really. He was serving a purpose there last season in defence. And we also have two out-and-out left-footed centre-backs in Verber and Pascal.
Yeah.
He won't drop Pascal, period. Like, I have my opinions on him, but Pascal's his man. I get the qualities that he brings to the team. Without him, we have absolutely zero aerial threat either. So I get that. Not that we'll ever score from a corner ever again, but how many
up to now? About 3,212?
It's a lot.
Your stat with corners is like our stat with penalties at home. We hadn't had a penalty for like 3 years.
Yeah, but bear in mind,
I think that is a major concern. I think it's a big issue for you guys.
Yeah, bear in mind,
I mean, you know, this is it completely. Like, what are you supposed to do?
You get between 10 and 15 corners a day. It should be good for 10 to 15 goals a season, should set pieces. And we just I'd rather us just pass the ball back to Melier and reset the system. The reason that we concede at the weekend is because we get countered on from a corner. And we're no threat from him anyway. So
as well. That's what I don't get. He's like,
if I'm being honest, I think set pieces could be the difference between you going up automatically or being in the playoffs.
Could be. We also now, because we're so bad from set pieces in general, we've started bringing all the players back defensively, so we have nobody up front.
Yeah,
like you only really see that when you're
at
the game line. That's so bad. Like, learn how to defend properly. But we have got a short team. Overall, this team size is quite small, and we don't have like the crazy thing is one of our best aerial threats is Dan James. And he's 5'6".
Leap on him, man.
He's got a right leg on him, and he's actually really good in the air. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So my question to you guys then, my question to both of you guys is Daniel Farke the right person to take you up?
And if not, who is?
I'll admit, I'm not 100% convinced. I am not 100% convinced that he is going to be able to deliver it this season. I'm not, even despite his record and everything, I'm not 100% convinced. I'm not saying that means get rid of him or anything like that at all, but I'm not 100% convinced. I wasn't convinced in the summer, and I'm not 100% convinced he can do it. I know Ryan was saying in the comments, trust the process, but I'm like, I don't know.
Who do you get though? Who do you get to get rid of him? I don't know.
Carlos. It's all about Carlos.
Yeah, but it's not set that he's going to leave West Brom, is it?
I answered this in the review the other day, and I said that he will still be the man that the 49ers, I believe, see through our season. And I think he probably will still get the amount of points that he needs to take us up, because you're not going to be playing a Burnley every week. The quality in difference that we're playing against most weeks is going to be like what we saw against Hull, like what we saw against Sheffield Wednesday, and we're going to beat most of them teams because we just have too much quality. In addition to the way that Farke sets up the team, we absolutely dominate most games. We dominated at the weekend. Yeah, and if we could have taken just one of his chances, or if the official had given the decision that he should have done, we'd probably still win the game.
Yeah,
so we have to deal with it with some proper no blinkers on. Like, he's the most qualified manager that in well, apart from Warnock, certainly. Yeah, he is. I mean, in terms of championship history, 3 90+ points finishes and 2 championships. He's the only manager to ever win the division twice, along with Mick McCarthy. He is the most qualified man for the job, and it's not like he's a dinosaur. He did it a couple of seasons ago. So, Jesus Christ, don't do that to me. So yeah, I think he's the best, because I'm telling you, I mean, say Corbyn don't come, who would then most Leeds fans look at? I saw in our stream the other day, Browney, people kicking off that David Moyes would be a potential. Well, that's what you're going to be looking at as the best we could possibly hope for. We're a championship team.
I think he will drop down, though, to be fair.
I think he probably will. But the point is, Downsy, is that Leeds fans won't want him. No, David Moyes. Yeah.
I get that.
No, we want somebody sexier than that. Well, who?
But I don't think Farke's sexy.
He's not sexy.
No,
that's the problem.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
Can we clip that up? Let's just clip that up. I don't think Farke's sexy.
No, well, I don't. But I don't. But if
what
Leeds
is he
fans
sexier than David Moyes?
Even when he says unbelievable hard, still not sexy.
Yeah, but the only
this
thing
is taking a weird turn, guys.
but the only thing I would say is that I don't think Carlos Corberan's sexy either.
Oh, he's a bit of a handsome chap. Oh, in football, sorry.
You know what, Downsy? You are right. But to Leeds fans, to some of the... Oh, this is good. I'm so patronising. To some of the more uneducated Leeds fans, he is Bielsa's disciple. He is his number 2.
I know he is.
He's going to come. Yeah. He's going to come and play Bielsa ball. He's not. He's not. And I know that sounds so like... I know I'm coming across really like toxic when I say that, but it's true. Like, the Leeds fans don't know what they're asking for when they're asking for Carlos. No. They don't. They think they do, but they don't.
You will be bored if you get him. You will be bored.
So,
why didn't we just win the game?
Predictions.
Because football. Well,
you're going to have this every week, Brownie, when you don't win, like you said.
Let's turn our attentions then to Cardiff. Finally, the big game. I mean, Cardiff, it's always a hostile place to go, obviously, with historic rivalry between the two clubs for one. Obviously, talk there, is it Bullat? I don't think he's gone. I know Stoke obviously might come today, but Bullat is still there for now, but a lot of talk that he may go with the start that Cardiff have had. How do you see this one going, Browney?
I think we bounce back. I do. I think it's bottom of the league. I think we bounce back. I think a comfortable 2, even 3-0. I think, despite everything we've said, I think we'll be back on track.
0-4.
Oh, he's going bold. All right,
and Bullet sacked.
I mean, yeah. To be fair, that would be the final nail in his Turkish coffin after that, wouldn't it? Gaz?
Yeah, I think you win 2-0. I don't see Cardiff causing you many problems, and I'd agree. I think he's on his way out, that manager. So if you don't win, the noise is just going to get even louder and louder, isn't it? Because of the situation that they're in. But as we've all discussed, and I think you're going to be in that state of flux all season. Every time you don't win a game, this noise about Farke is going to keep getting raised. And but for now, I think you win on Saturday and it quiets down a little bit.
Downs it. I mean, if you want some assistance, Ryan's, Cardiff bottom of the league, only scored 1, conceded 14, haven't won yet. He says that Cardiff win is on the cards.
It's the most Leeds thing ever that we would lose.
It would be.
It is.
Cardiff are about as useful as a pottery in a Greek restaurant. So I'm going Leeds 5, Cardiff.
Oh my lord!
I think Cardiff are terrible. Honestly, I think. Well, I don't understand now. They were all right under him last season, and then it's just tanked
He
quicker than
massively
what.
overachieved last season. Massively overachieved.
Honestly, it's tanked quicker than what a crab shell goes down to the sea bottom. It's terrible. They're horrendous.
Get that on a t-shirt.
Lou, when you can compose yourself after that analogy, that nugget of goals and Downsy.
How can I follow that? I actually think it might be closer than what people might think.
I agree.
Leeds.
Oh, no.
3-3.
No, I'm going 1-0 Leeds. I think Saturday will hurt Leeds, but I think you've got enough quality just to get it over the line. Cardiff absolutely fighting for their lives. I can either see it being an absolute thrashing or a real tight game.
Do you know what? That'll even be a problem. Even if we win the game and it's tight and it's 1-0, even that will cause
it would.
problems.
If we score early, we'll absolutely steamroll them, I think.
Yeah, that's what
I really
get
do.
that early goal.
Brownie, I
think
can't
you're right.
wait
I think
for you.
I think it will either be comfortable or like ridiculous, and that's why I'm going to go 1-1.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Brownie to go as ball as what Jay is when it's Leeds score in the first minute and defend for the next 90 as Cardiff dominate the match.
Imagine. The funny thing is, Dan, you make a really good point there, because if we went 1-0 up and then sat back like Scott Parker's team the other day, Leeds fans would go Burley steak over that.
That's quite promotion winning, Scott Parker, I'll have you know. Any other business?
I'm tired.
I think it's on a real knife edge. I honestly do, and I think it's mental that we're speaking about it quite early on in the season with Leeds, but I really do sense it's on a knife edge with
just how
and I know that
it is.
I get that he's won championships before, and he's probably one of the best candidates still out there. But I really do sense that it can go either way, and I honestly do believe that if Leeds have a real difficult 2 or 3 games, it wouldn't surprise me if they swapped it around. And I think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it quick. And I don't think you can leave it till January time, because I think that's leaving it too late. I think you've got to give somebody the chance to assess a team and look in January, because it's quite clear the funds are there for Leeds, PSR depending and all that stuff. But if we're going to do it, they've got to make the decision. And you know what Reiner might do? And I think that would show really strong leadership and ownership from the 49ers to stick with him and say, this is our man, and he's there to the very end regardless of what we're going to do. But we know that football's a very strange game sometimes, and I sense that if something doesn't seem to go right, I think you're walking on eggshells a bit with Harker, I'll be honest.
Well, Brown...
There were a lot of hostility at Ellen Road at the weekend. A lot. Now, if we'd have won the game, you wouldn't have heard a goose towards
there'd be nothing
towards Danny Facker. But when Danny Facker came over to the Kop at the end of the game, there were a few fans giving him the V's. There were a few fans booing him. Now I hate that, if I'm honest. Like if you're at the depths of despair, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, but we're not. It's the first loss of the
season. I was last season.
Yeah, like there were times where you'd have been well within your rights. As a Leeds fan, I've had managers where I've been exactly the same, but we're not at that stage. So I didn't get it. Some fans just have an agenda because.
When you say a few, how many?
I'm talking 10%. Yeah, I'm talking.
So it's not
I'm not saying I agree with this, but I think, like Lewis says, I think there's something in the air that's just brewing, and if we're not careful, a few bad results or underwhelming results, it's going to.
But what does it take down it? Do we win 3? Yeah, and then we go and lose at Sunderland away, and we should sack Farker again. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
Leicester lost 11 games last season.
Brownie made a really...
I was making earlier on. I think it's going to have this. You're going to have this noise all season, no matter what the results are. Even if you win, like you say, you win 2 or 3 in a row, and then you draw against someone you think you should beat, or you lose against someone you think you should draw, at least get a point against. You're going to have this noise all season. It's not going to go away. And the point is, how loud does it get before? The question is, how loud does it get before the 49ers jump?
But Brownie made a good point. The fact that is that you know, if you don't, this is the second season that you're looking to go up. they always say you need to go up in your first season because of the finances. The second season's you sort of back up, and your third season's your last saloon, because by the time you get to your fourth and fifth season, the financial situation and landscape changes so much for your parachute payments that it's difficult to get that bridge back. And Jay made a really good point in your show the other day that it's not just thinking about the here and now in the championship, but it's how far the gap's going to get for if you do get promoted. Because as we know, it's hard enough just bouncing back the first time and staying up. Southampton's learning that fact, so.
Well, there we go.
I agree.
I feel
sorry,
like
Chris, I agree with that. I agree with Downsy, but I also think that, again, if you're taking that long-term approach, and I know I'm sounding negative, and I respect complete opinions, but again, is Farke the right person to lead you into in the actual Premier League? Because there's such a gap already.
Yeah, probably not.
I could be massively wrong on this. I think Leeds would come straight back down. I don't think they're strong enough in the Premier League at the moment. And if you are looking at someone like a David Moyes, people might not like him in terms of how he plays football. But I'll tell you what, I think he'd have a better chance of keeping Leeds up and the players he could bring in and the reputation that he could do. But listen, I think we're talking about ifs and buts and maybes. And at this moment in time, I agree with what you're saying, Danzy, but I think at this moment in time, Leeds are that desperate. And we're talking about it in this scenario because it's Leeds United. And I know that probably irks a few people, but we're speaking because they are a big club and there's a massive expectation. If it's any other club in that division, nobody's saying a word about it.
Yeah, but they've got to go up, Lou. That's what I'm saying. This season is really the season that they have to do it, because next season is your definitely last chance.
There's always next season.
Last season as well, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. But last season was that's the perfect time to go up. And I agree with Browney and Jay that there is an element of desperation around it.
But it shows how far away the championship teams are at the moment.
This comment is so true. It's so true.
This is what I mean. This negativity, and it's like it's powerful. Negative momentum is just as strong as positive momentum.
Look at us at City.
Well, we changed that at town
in this vicious cycle of toxicity.
Yeah,
at City all the time, and it's so hard to break.
Well, we changed that at town.
Teams in the Premier League. And his teams in the Premier League last season got deducted points and still stayed in that division. That's the gap you've got to fill. That's the gap.
And we made that point the other day, didn't we, Browney? We made exactly that point the other day.
It needs, again, comes back to that point. Listen, it's not just on Farke, it's the players. Players got to take responsibility and accountability and stand up for themselves and actually go, you know what, we've probably not done as well we should do. And they've got to back each other and defend each other, because it is going to be a bit of a siege mentality at Leeds United at the moment, and there's no doubt about that. But actually, that should be the fuel that gets you promoted and gets you in a good place, because everything off the field suggests that you set up well to have a right good go at it. But at this moment in time, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Well, there we go. I feel like anything like Scooby-Doo. Tune in next week for another exciting episode when we find out whether Daniel Farke has still got a job, whether Leeds have been battered by Cardiff.
Oh, don't. If we have to come on this or on the review at the weekend, Browney after losing to Cardiff.
And whether the referee in the Bradford City game would have got away with it if it hadn't have been for those pesky kids.
What a way to end, Chris.
Let's end it on that. I'm going to, after last week's shit show of an ending, I'm going to assume that there will be programs later this week, but I'm not going to ask anyone about them because nobody knows what's happening. So there will be programs later in the week, probably looking at Huddersfield Town and presumably one on Thursday about Leeds. Check our social media pages, though, and the YouTube channel to find out what's actually happening, because half the time we don't really know either. A big thank you to everyone that has joined me tonight. Lewis Sale, to Gareth Walker, to Stephen Downs, and to our Leeds United cohort, Jayson Boocker and Stephen Brown. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. What's left of it? Thank you to everyone who's joined us and commented over the course of the evening as well. For those that have been watching on YouTube, on X, and on Twitch as well, we do appreciate the support. Do like us on X and on Facebook as well. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back very soon here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Good night.